Hi, you guys. I am so sorry that I'm not there with you today. I've had a family thing that I need to take care of on Friday. So, you will have to have fun at UOMA without me. But I'm still doing this. I still promise that I will give you your books that you can buy for your libraries this year. So, let me share my screen with you and move that. And present. Okay. All right, you guys. Hello, welcome. This is the middle school and high school version of the 2025 Book Frenzy, where we look at 50 books from the last year that I think you should consider to have for your libraries, either for middle school or high school or both. But of course, my annual plea that we always are in need of more people to help us review these books, especially high school level books. Most of us tend to avoid those because they are so different than they used to be 20, 25 years ago. If you are interested at all in seeing what it takes to be a reviewer, just send me a message at the email that is down there on the screen. Now, before we get started, I want you to know that the handout that you have in your hands has actually all of our essentials or all of our appeals to many books, all of our appeals to many rated books from this last year. So I'm not going to talk about every book on the list, but I wanted you to have access to all of the titles that we came up with that we thought were really great ones that you should have. You, of course, should always take good care to look at the content advisory labels that are on the books to look for the ones that will fit best with your community. I'm not going to make those choices for you. I am really just looking at how much we think kids will love them. Then also you'll see on your handout that some of them have a symbol next to them. Those books are available to purchase here at the conference. I had to make that choice like 3 months ago. And so there are some books that I are still on the list of 50, but I probably would have kicked them off for other books that are a little bit newer, but they're all still great to have. So go buy Follett, go buy um, Bound to Stay Bound, go buy Rainbow, any of your jobbers. I've tried to send the list out to all of them so that they can show you how you can easily choose the books and they will be happy to sell them to you. Okay, so let's go on. All right, so Book Frenzy 2025 secondary. So first off, we have the Abdo encyclopedias. I don't know if you guys have seen these yet. I was so excited the first time I saw them. I'll have to admit, Abdo has not always been my favorite publisher in the past. Have a hard time finding things of theirs that I think the students would really like, but these are fabulous. I only have 9 of the books up there for you to see, but there are a lot more than that. You go through, just go on and do a search for the Abdo encyclopedias. There are separate different series of them, and choose the ones that you think that your students will like the most. For example, there is one that is the Taylor Swift Eras Tour Encyclopedia, which I now have 3 copies of because it's such a popular one. So the Abdo encyclopedias. All Better Now is the brand newest book by Neal Shusterman. This is about Ron and Morgan and Mariel, who are all different ages of teenagers. And there is a new virus, a corona type virus that's been called Crown Royale. And what it does is leaves the survivors happy because all of that angst and fear has been swept away in their life. However, is a disease that causes happiness a disease that we actually want in the world? Well, different people have different interpretations, and in his lovely written way, Neil shows us all of those different options and allows us to decide for ourselves what we think about this Crown Royale through the eyes of these three different teenagers and how they are affected by it. And then boom. Now, I'll tell you right off, this book is about an 11-year-old, and I read that and promptly forgot it because I was so absorbed by Joe's story. He has lived with his grandma most of the time in her cute, adorable little house, and his mom is just in and out of his life whenever she feels like it. And then one day, mom is arrested and she skips bail, which grandma posted. And so, boom, the house is gone. Grandma and Joe are now living out of her car. Joe confides one day in and one of his best friends at school, and that best friend helps him find a place in a mobile home park. And they're just getting back on their feet, and boom, grandma is sick. So sick that she needs to be in the hospital. What is Joe going to do to keep his life together? Oh my gosh. Um, Phipps has outdone even Starfish. This is so fabulous. There are so many of our students who are living on this edge where Joe lives. And this is a book that will not speak to just to them as a mirror, but as a window for others around to understand. The Crescent Beneath the Crescent Shadow is a more high-level historical fantasy novel. For those of your students who like the Game of Thrones, this is a similar but much more tastefully done version of it. This is about Constantine, who is 19 years old, and his father has left him in charge, even though Constantine is not actually ready. Brigands are coming in, destroying their crops and their homes. Winter around is around the corner, and they have a tribute to the Sultan, which they have to pay when spring comes. Now, if Constantine could marry someone who is rich, enter Susanna, who's 17 years old, then her financial security may help their little country or their town. So this actually does a great job of aligning with actual history without feeling like you're reading a history textbook. There are fun fictional embellishments and lots of lovely drama. Beastly Beauty is the newest fairy tale by Jennifer Donnelly. This is about Arabella, who has been spending her whole life being told what to do, what to say, what not to say, how to be perfect. But she wants so much more. However, because she has spent so much time trying to control her emotions, she brings a curse upon herself and upon everybody who else who is in the castle and traps them in their castle. Enter Bo, who is a thief with a troubled past, and he enters into the castle to find out what there is to steal, but maybe Castle can use Bo to break this curse. So this isn't about heroes. This isn't about princesses. This is about people who screw things up and need courage in order to hope over despair. Bright Red Fruit by Sophia Elhio is about Samara, who is 16 years old. Um, she has a bad reputation, which she didn't deserve because her reputation was built upon a lie by a boy, and the adults and everyone else in her community believe the worst of her. Samira hasn't even kissed a boy. But what she's wearing, who she's with, is always reported by everyone in the neighbor to her mother. She is watched like a hawk constantly. She is a poet. She wants to go to college. She wants to go to New York City and get out from under her parents' thumb. Um, this is also a novel in verse. Even though everybody doesn't love that kind of novel, this is a great story built upon the Persephone myth, which you may notice because, Samira is holding a pomegranate in her hand. Interestingly enough, there's no adult content and no swearing in this. So it is one where you can feel confident giving it to anyone who you think may enjoy the story. Brownstone is a graphic novel about Almudena, who is 14 years old and has gone to spend the summer with her father. Her parents have been divorced since she was a baby, and this is the first time that she has really had a chance to meet her father because this summer her mom is on a tour with her dance company, and Almudena needed a place to stay. Her father doesn't actually speak very much English, and so a friend of his always needs to be around in order to translate for them. The food is so different than what she's used to. The neighborhood is unfamiliar. And the boys her age getting are harassing her and calling her off-brand. That they're saying that Almudena does not fit in. Eighth grade and up will probably love this story about someone who is trying to fit into the world and figure out where her place is. We actually have a 14-year-old character who acts like a 14-year-old. And it does take place in 1995, which puts it in a place where we don't have to deal with cell phones and computers and that kind of thing. The Calculation of You and Me is a very adorable romance book. This is about Josh and Marlo. Well, Josh has come to Marlo and told her that they need to take a break. It's the summer between their junior and senior year. Marlo expects that when summer gets over that Josh will come back to her. Instead, the break becomes always all the way a breakup. And Josh tells her because Marlo is not romantic enough. So Marlo is determined to learn how to be romantic and show Josh that she is enough. And so she goes to Ashton, who she wants to help her win Josh back. Of course, this is a great look at romance and healthy relationships. Kaylor does a good job of poking finger at common tropes and also pointing out the toxicity of a relationship that is just based upon romance. There are things to laugh out loud about, and there is space to learn to love people the way that they want to be loved. The Color of a Lie is a historical fiction book that's set back in 1955. Calvin is Black, but he passes as white. His family has moved to an all-white suburb so that their lives will be safer, but this secret of them actually being Black weighs a lot on them. He has a crush on Lily, who does not pass, but actually looks Black. And Calvin has to make not just tough choices, but dangerous choices about his identity and how he wants to be seen. There are references to Martin Luther King Jr., there are references to Emmett Till, which ground the book into its historic past. A really great look and education about what life is like being Black. A Crane Among Wolves is a fantasy romance set in the 1500s in Korea. This is about Isul, who is 17 years old. She and her sister have been orphaned by soldiers who killed their parents after the king ordered them to. They have been living with their grandmother for a couple of years. However, the king decides that the eldest is beautiful enough that he wants her to be one of his concubines. Isul wants to save her sister, but in order to do that, she is going to have to learn a lot of skills that she does not yet have. There's even one of the soldiers who is willing to help her learn these skills, even though it may mark him as a traitor. There is a lot of intrigue. There is a lot of persistence and terminations within the page. There is a prince involved who may not be happy with the choices that his own father, the king, has been making. The first state of being is about Michael, who's 12 years old, and it's 1999. So he is very worried about Y2K. He's worried that all the computers may be shut down, the electrical grid may go down. And so he started stockpiling some things under his bed that he thinks his family can use. Then, however, Ridge, who is 17-year-old, appears in their in the apartment complex and tells Michael and their friend Ginny that he is a time traveler from 200 years in the future. Michael really wants to know what the future holds for him, but Ridge is in trouble with his own family, and he shouldn't even be back in 1999 in the first place. So this is really interesting because it's a science fiction book told in a historical time period. There is some technical stuff, which is really just jargon, referring to things that you will probably recognize. And so, um, interesting way to go about doing the whole thing. The Frindle Files, yes, this is a sequel to the original Frindle that was written back in 1996. Though now we are in the future, our present, and this is our main character is Josh, whose English language arts teacher doesn't even allow them to use computers in the classroom. Not only can they not use computers in classroom, but they have to turn their homework in written by hand. So one day, Josh is in the family junk drawer trying to find a pen, and he finds one, but on the side of it is written the word Frindle. Talks to his mom about him, who tells him about this boy who made up the word when she was a teenager herself. And so Josh does a little bit of research, and he thinks that his dinosaur of a teacher, Mr. N, may actually be this kid who came up with the word frindle all those years ago. I remember reading the original Frindle, but it was never one that I reread. But oh my gosh, I love this one. It might be because Mr. N is so clever, and it might be because he is able to catch the kids out and show them that the kids, are really not as smart as they think they are. But I do really think that it's a really fun book. Now, going from fun, let's go right into murder. How about we have 17-year-old Mariella, who is the heiress of the Morse family fortune, and her boyfriend, Vic, is accused of killing Mariella's parents with an axe. Now, the facts look grim because he is found standing over the bodies holding a bloody axe, but he has no memory of actually doing the killing. His sister Tessa is convinced that he is innocent. And so she decides to retrace Vic's steps and figure out what is going on. The story is actually told in a non-linear fashion, so it jumps around, which maintains the heightened sense of tension. There is a lot of research that has gone into the setting, which is in Fall River, Massachusetts, which I believe is the home of Lizzie Borden. And the characters are very interesting. There's no deep issues going on here, but it is a very, very interesting story. Air is the newest one by Sabaa Tahir. This is about Eyes, who has burn scars from when their orphanage burnt 10 years ago. And she still wants vengeance for the victims of the fire. Then we also have Prince Quill, who is the heir after his empress, the Aunt Helene, and he likes to roam the streets anonymously. Aiz meets Quill in order to stop murders that have started taking place. And they run into Saoirse, who is a jewel thief who is trying to survive the slums and earn enough money so that she can move away. She is running from a violent gang, barely escapes. Her paths are going to cross with Aiz and Prince Quill. There's a lot going on in here, but this is actually set 10 years after an Ember in the Ashes world. Okay, Eris Takes All is our next murder mystery. This is about Olivia. 2 years ago, her parents got divorced. Her mother signed a prenup, which meant that her mother and Olivia get kicked out of the house with nothing. Olivia doesn't care about the money, but she definitely deserves that her mom deserves better than drowning on all the bills that she has. And so Olivia decides that she's going to put together a crew and they are going to go in and they are going to take as much of her father's money as they possibly can. A really good heist novel, lots of scheming, manipulation, and improvisation going on within these pages. Hidden agendas and unforeseen obstacles. It will keep you guessing until the end. Iceberg is the newest historical fiction book by Jennifer Nielsen. This is about Hazel, who is going to be traveling to New York. She's 12 and she's going to work in a garment factory with her aunt. They're hoping that she can earn money to bring the rest of the family to America. When she steps foot on the Titanic, she is awed by its size and its decadence. And of course, she has to live below decks in the steerage department. She does manage to make some friends, and then, of course, tragedy strikes. Really good look at the life and social classes of the 1912s when the Titanic sank. I Will Follow looks into the maniacal behavior of fans who go too far. Shay Davidson is a TikTok influencer and a dancer. And if you want to know exactly how many followers she has, there is Nora who could tell you from minute to minute as she watches Shay's count go up and down. Nora is afraid for Shay. I mean, Shay has never met Nora. She has no clue who she is. And because Shay's numbers seem to be going down, and she has the perfect plan to make Shay's numbers go back up and believes that Nora is the only one that can help Shay do better. And she decides, well, even if I have to kidnap Shay to get her to pay attention to me, I can do that. Nora's behavior seems so far-fetched and so far out there that it can't be real, but stalkers are real. Think John Lennon, think David Letterman, and nowadays there are more stalkers than ever because of all the information that's available out there on the internet. So a little bit out there, but so full of tension, but it's a fast, easy read too for your kids who don't want to get too involved in a lengthy book that is too complicated for them. An Illustrated History of Urban Legends is a quick look at all kinds of different urban legends that are out there. It goes from the pre-modern era to the meta-modern current era. Nothing is done in a whole in-depth look, but maybe half a page is spent on a few, while blurbs and small paragraphs take up most of what we see. So it's a overall look at a whole lot of different urban legends and where they came from. But I'll tell you, the author does a really good look of showing us the origins of these kinds of urban legends and what reality they may be based on, and probably why most of them are really not true. I loved it. I'm sorry you got mad. Yes, this is a picture book, but oh my gosh, it is a picture book that everyone needs to read, not just your kids, but also your adults. This is a book that I wish that I had back when my own kids were little. This is about Jack, and he has to write an apology note to Zoe. But his teacher keeps rejecting his notes and tells him to try again, and keep at it until he is willing to recognize what he did and why he did it and write a sincere apology note to Zoe. I love this, and I want my teachers to read this to all of our students, maybe as a whole school prowl lesson. This is what I consider to be a master text for any book that is trying to teach a lesson because the message shines through without ever preaching about to anyone. Another picture book for you. I'm trying to love germs. This is one for all of your biology teacher. Is we're talking to a germ, and he is going to teach us all about microbes and pathogens and the different ways that they can harm us and help us. Same author that wrote I'm Trying to Love Spiders, and this is actually the fifth book in this style that she has written. So look at all of them and see which ones would fit into your curriculum. This one is for us as librarians and probably for your language arts teacher. This is about Jacob, and he wants to read the Penguin book during library time. What's the Penguin book, you say? Well, it's And Tango Makes Three, but he can't find it anywhere in the library. One day she mentions it to her two dads and to her teacher, but the teacher says that they can't have the Penguin book anymore, and she really can't explain to her why. At recess that day, the kids pretend to be penguins hatching eggs in their nests of rocks, and they act out and explain the book to other kids who haven't read it yet. Hoffman does a good job of reminding us that kids are never as uptight about books as adults are. And if one kid has read it and loved the book and it's gone missing, they're going to share the story with everybody around them. Just Keep Walking is a novel about Joe, who has turned 12. This is a summer that she and her dad were supposed to hike 100 miles on the Superior Hiking Trail. But dad and mom have gotten divorced, and dad has a new Insta family, and he's decided that they are more important to him right now than Joe is. Joe's mom has decided that she's going to go on this trip with her, but neither of them are really great backpacker hiker kind of people. And after the first 0.6 of a mile, Joe is about ready to turn around and head back to civilization. But she refuses to give her dad the satisfaction and is determined to watch every to hike every step of that 100 miles. This is a man versus nature story. There is some of nature to be conquered, but it is more about conquering ourselves than it is about surviving nature. A really great journey into the soul, kind of a heart of darkness without having to go into the deepest, darkest parts of Africa. The Kill Factor is about Emerson, who's 16 years old and lives in the poorest part of her city with her brother Kester and her father, who is oblivious to his kids, and what they actually need. She has stolen money to buy food for Kester, who's only 9, and she is caught. And she is offered a deal. She can participate into a competition where one contestant will receive money and status, or she'll go to prison. So this is a little bit Hunger Games, a little bit Squid Games, and a whole lot of social media. That, in fact, that's how you win. The person with the biggest gain of social media followers at the end wins. There are dangerous games, there are crazy games, there are well, anyway, so much here to Enjoy. Liar Society is now 2 books. The second one just came out. This is about Weatherby, who has received a scholarship to a very prestigious school in Boston. There she meets other 12 years old and hopes that she'll fit in, even though she's not wealthy or privileged. She is hiding a secret, but it turns out that she's not the only one. Everybody's got secrets. And when she is tapped to join the oldest, most powerful secret society in the world, those secrets may come to light. It's interesting, well paced. The characters act older than 12 years old, however. So it's not really meant for most elementary school students, but definitely for the middle school. Life After Whale is another picture book. This is the second book in probably less than a year that talks about a whale fall, what happens when a whale dies. A whale falls to the bottom of the ocean where it becomes habitat for many of the other creatures' oceans for another 100 years. Beautifully illustrated by Jason Chen, and Lynn Brunel's text tells us just what we need to understand about the story. I would also look at Whale Fall, which is the other book. I don't have the author's name written down right now, so I can't tell you that. But both books, even though they cover the same subject, do it in very different and also beautiful ways. Lifeboat 5 is about the SS City of Benares, which was a ship that was used to evacuate children from London to Canada during World War II. However, just as all of their escorts leave, right after their escorts leave, a German U-boat torpedoes the boat, and all the children and the adults on the boat are sent into the ocean. You remember Lifeboat 12, which was about lifeboat number 12 and what happened to them during this time. So now we get to learn about Beth and Bess, who are on Lifeboat 5. And I thought that their story was more intense and more heart-aching than Lifeboat 12. Written free verse, but this time I'm not mad because I don't think that my heart could have handled an entire regular novel written on this topic. So great. Louder Than Hunger is about Jake, who's 13 years old, and the voices in his head tell him that he is nobody, no one loves him, he is fat, and he is repulsive. That voice has caused him to become the opposite and sent him into an eating disorder where he becomes dangerously thin. And so he is being sent to a youth facility for with other kids who are struggling like these like Jake is. He is getting medical attention, emotional help, and psychiatric help, but none of those things will work until Jake decides that he actually wants to help. Again, another novel in verse, but so you will turn the pages so fast as you want to compel Jake's story to end faster so that you can find out how his story ends. There are references to Broadway musicals. He has a very complicated relationship with his parents and with the other teens in the facility. And it is probably the first book that has ever talked about eating disorders from the point of view from a boy. Now, this is just a quick, fun nonfiction book about the rise of Lionel Messi. It looks back at his childhood and to his current career as a soccer superstar. Interestingly, the author doesn't follow Messi's career in a linear manner. Instead, he mixes up the chapters so we get a glimpse at him as a child, but then get a look at his life as a soccer star. I really enjoy this one a lot, and I know that my students that like soccer will also enjoy it. The New Girl is a graphic novel about Leah, who's 12 years old, and she is moving from Romania to Canada. And wouldn't you know it, she's in the airport and her first period starts. And after that, she is always getting terrible cramps with her periods. So not only does she have to adjust to a new country, new food, a new language, a new school, but she also has these new changes that are going on in her own body. These are based on Cassandra Callan, the author's own troubles that she went through. There is a really fun look to the graphic novel. It feels almost more like um, a personal notebook than a novel because it shows how Leah understands or doesn't understand words in her new language. Really, so much to unpack in this graphic novel. Not if you break me, if you break up, not if you break up with me first is probably the book I talk about most if people ask me what my favorite book was for this year. This is about Eve, who's 13 years old. Her best friend is Andrew, and he has been gone all summer. They haven't seen each other. Eve has been working with the soccer team, the track team, all summer long because she wants to be on the track team when school starts. And they are convinced that Eve and Andrew would be the perfect couple because in their minds, you're nobody if you're not part of a couple. So when Eve and Andrew get back together, they decide, okay, fine, everybody's pressuring us, let's be a couple. As soon as they say it, they both in their heads realize this is wrong. We are not meant to be a couple, but neither of them wants to admit it. They don't want be the ones to break them up because they'll be seen as the bad guy in the relationship. And so instead, they both decide to sabotage their relationship in increasingly hilarious ways. There are lots of misunderstandings. There is an older brother that Andrew has who is an expert at breaking up relationships that makes things every so much worse and so much more full of tension. This is a definite what not to do in a relationship book. Good to last drop is what I wrote in my review. Popcorn is about Andrew and it's picture day. It shouldn't be that hard to get a decent picture, but Andrew has severe anxiety, and this particular day is for him a series of unfortunate events. So, what started out as a little kernel of anxiety in his stomach, as the day goes along, becomes popping into a bouncier and hotter and more anxiety ridden day that is working its way into a full blown panic attack. You will laugh, you will cry. Um, and again, this is another one of those books. I love that we're getting these books from the point of view of a boy. I'm not always a fan personally of books about kids with anxiety, but Harold pulls it off really well in Andrew's story. Puzzled is a memoir about the author's experiences with obsessive compulsive disorder. Pan is 12, his brain is beginning to obsess, and it follows him through high school. He's worried that he'll say or do the wrong scene, and the only way that he can stop himself from these things is to do an exhausting set of rituals. He needs help, but he doesn't know how to ask for it, and he doesn't even know who might be able to give it to him. Uh, I think the first book I ever read about OCD was Kissing Doorknobs back in the 80s or 90s. And our knowledge and acceptance and understanding of people with OCD has increased by leaps and bounds, but we have to understand that there are kids who may have this who have no clue what it is they have. Rise Up and Sing is a nonfiction book. about the power that music has had in protest movements. Instead of showing us the full spectrum of protest songs, it focuses on certain activist topics such as climate activism, indigenous rights, LGBT, and human rights, and then gives us a song within that movement and then a playlist of other songs that are also about the same topic. I love how Warner has organized this book, and I really love the playlist. It would be great. Maybe somebody already has by this point in time curated the different playlists on Spotify. That would be awesome. Select is about Alex, who's 12 years old, who loves soccer. She lives in a single parent home with her mom and her little sister, Bella. Alex has been playing soccer since she was 5 years old on the community rec center team. But one day, a coach from an elite team sees her and convinces Alex's mom to enroll her onto his elite team. They will provide her uniform. They will provide all of her fees that she needs. But what he doesn't understand, and what even Alex's own mother doesn't understand, is how hard it is for her to get around the greater San Francisco area to get to practices. She's supposed to be picking up Belle from the community center, or some days on Saturdays, she has to take Belle with her, and they have to take the bus. Plus, among all that, the coach himself is not supportive. He is very acerbic. He is misogynistic towards the girls and outright hostile. And so Alex, with a little bit of support and encouragement, needs to find the strength to confront this coach and do what she needs to do to retain her love of the game and still play at a level that may give her that break that she needs to make for herself a better life. I loved it. I think that students of many grade levels should read this book to understand that there are behaviors in this world that you should not have to put up with. Shaken is also a soccer book, but this is about Christy. She is only in middle school, but she is playing on the high school's varsity soccer team because she is that good. In fact, she is their first good hope they have to make it to and win the playoffs at their high school. However, there is a bad move, there is a kick to the head, and now Christy can barely get out of bed, let alone put herself back out on the soccer field. Because her brain injury is invisible, no one around her understands, not her parents, not her coach, not the other girls on the team who want her back so they can win. But she can't just shake it off. She can't just get back out there. Um, so good at helping us to understand what it looks like from inside the brain of someone who has a concussion, a really bad concussion. Um, I just love this so much. And in fact, I had a teacher at my school whose daughter had a concussion from soccer who went through most of this. And so you need to read it. You need to share it with your soccer girls. You need to share it with every kid who plays a sport and their coaches. The Sherlock Society is James Ponti's newest series, the first book. This is about Alex, who's 12 years old. He has a sister who's 1 year old and two best friends. And they've decided that this summer they're going to go around and solve mysteries. They call themselves the Sherlock Society, and they get help from their friend Zoe's grandfather, who will teach the kids his own journalism skills of research and deduction. This year, they've decided they're going to look for the lost treasure of Al Capone. But when they visit the Florida Everglades, they find that something far more sinister may be happening. Kids who love the City Spies will also love the Sherlock Society. We get a new group of kids. It's similar, but not exactly the same because Ponty is such a great storyteller. Um, kids will love it if they've already, even if they haven't tried City Spies. Silent Sister. Oh my gosh. Grace wakes up and finds herself in the hospital, and she cannot remember anything about the last week. She remembers getting on the bus to go on her senior retreat, but then nothing. Worst of all, her sister Maddie is missing. What we get is Grace, who is trying to remember what happened so that she can maybe help rescue Maddie. And then we have flashbacks to Maddie, who is also on the bus, and she is telling her story forward up to when she disappears. I can't even tell you how fabulous this book is. And the best part about it isn't even the fact that it is totally a G-rated book, except for a little bit of tension and arguing. This grabbed my attention and held onto it tight, and I loved every minute of it. The Sticky Note Manifesto of Aisha Argwal is about Aisha, who is trying to answer the essay question for her college application to Stanford. The question asks how she's gotten out of her comfort zone. However, Aisha has never gotten out of her comfort zone. So now she makes herself a set of sticky notes that will hopefully guide her onto something that she can write this college application about. It is funny. It has brilliant metaphors in it. It has a boy that is going to help Aisha cross the things off of her new manifesto. And it has so many fun, cute things. Now, I am not keeping track of the time. So if I run out of time, you guys just stop the video and move on to whatever is next on your schedule. I'm going to keep going just in case. And eventually I will put this on the blog so that you can read the whole, so that you can listen to the whole thing. So if you have to stop at some point in time, stop. I'm just going to keep going. Okay, the summer she went missing is about Paige and Audrey, who are both 16 years old. Paige is always looking forward to seeing Audrey every summer. And Dylan, who is 18, has been Paige's longtime crush. However, it's one summer ago and Audrey disappears and never comes home. She's been gone for a year. Dylan and Paige are determined to find out what happened to Audrey, find her if they can, and rescue her. And of course, they're going to step into a very dangerous situation. The Thieves Gambit and Heist Royale, which is the newest one, are about Rosalind. She is an expert thief in a family of thieves, and they dominate the North American crime world. However, after a heist goes badly wrong, Rosalind's mother is kidnapped, and in order to save her, Rosalind is going to enter the Thieves Gambit, which is a contest for thieves, and if she wins, her prize is the fulfillment of any wish. And of course, her desire is to rescue her mom. However, she's going to have to face danger and challenges and test all of her abilities, which is really hard because even though her mom is missing, Rosalind no longer wants to be part of the thieving business. And then, of course, there's book number 2. This Dark Descent is about 17-year-old McKiri, who secretly races her horse for money because she's trying to save her family and their business. Now she is caught up in a very dangerous race that is coming up, but if she can win it, then her family will have what they need and they can be in peace. She is being sponsored by 20-year-old Damien, because Damien hates the person who has made this bargain with McKeary. And so they are going to create a special horse that has the speed, the endurance, the instincts, and the strength that it takes to win this race. Yes, this is a book of magic. The horses are created with what they need. If you've perhaps have read Ashlord by Scott Reinken, you may have met this idea before, but Josephson does it in a completely different way, extremely unusual and interesting, with a lot of Jewish mythology mixed in. The 13th Child is Aaron Craig's newest book. This is about Hazel. She's 19. She's the 13th child in her family, and nobody seems to want her except for her brother Bertie, who is just 1 year older. Back when Hazel was 12, her godfather took her in so that she could train to become a healer. But Bertie, it was sold off to pay their family's debts. So Hazel learns that as part of her duty as a healer, she will have to help people pass on as gently as possible. Now there is a plague in their kingdom. She is going to save the life of the king and become the healer for the royal family. And because she saves him instead of helping him pass on to his death, that causes all kinds of challenges and difficulties for her and for her whole family. And Hazel wonders if she made the wrong choice when she decided to save the king. Threads That Bind is about Io, who is 18 years old, and she is a cutter. She cuts the threads of life of other people. One day she sees a woman whose life thread has been cut, but she isn't dead. And in fact, that woman murders something else, all of which is something that should not be possible. The world that I live in is ordered chaos. There is a lot of tenuous relationships between Io and her powers, her sisters, and a community. It is a fantasy murder mystery suspense novel, with Io being as much in conflict with herself as she is with the world around her. The magic system is actually pretty easy to understand and to accept, and the need to find the reasons behind the murders that are happening. Now, Three Little Tardigrades is another picture book. This one, this one is about three little tardigrades who are being kicked out of their place by their mother, who wants to finally be alone, but tells them as they go out to watch out for the big hairy wolf spider. Each of them chooses a new habitat, but as they settle in, the big hairy wolf spider swoops in. But there are some unanticipated bad consequences for the spider himself. Um, you may think that this is just a little Three Little Pigs book. However, there is lots of scientific information that's in here for a science teacher. Tardigrades actually do exist, and the science that's within the book is actually true about the tardigrades. So it is whimsy, but it is also nonfiction. Two Sides to Every Murder is about Olivia, who's 16 years old. She finds out that she is not living with her biological father, that her parents have been keeping from her. And so she decides, so Reagan decides that her mother, who was a suspect in a set of murders back in 2008, that she's going to live with her mother. No, I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay, there are two main characters in this novel. One of them is Olivia, who is trying to figure out who her biological father is. The other one is Reagan, whose mother is been accused of murder back in 2008, but never jailed or convicted of a crime. Both Olivia and Reagan end up at the camp where those murders happened, looking for different kinds of answers. And then there is an accident. What they don't under know is that they are actually walking into a new set of murders. And the Witch of Camp Lake Lost returns. They may get the answers that they want, but will they survive to use those answers? So there's a little bit of creepy magic in it, but mostly it's twisted, murdery fun, if you can call murder fun. Ultraviolet is a novel in verse about Ultraviolet, who is no, sorry. This is a novel in verse about Elio, who is 13 years old. He's Mexican American. He has been raised in a culture of machismo, and he is trying to figure out what he really wants his life to be about. There's a situation at school that gets out of hand. Elio lands up in the hospital, and he needs to learn how to survive in a culture of toxic masculinity. He's dealing with puberty, he's dealing with big emotions, he's only in eighth grade. It is an essential book for a school library because it is a good one for middle grade boys that can gently teach them lots of different things about our new world. Could even pair it with Long Way Down to talk about what masculinity and being a man actually means in different cultures. Waist Deep in Dung. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. Waist Deep in Dung is a look at the grossest job throughout history. This is a nonfiction book about 210 pages that talk about all the different ways that dung is involved in our lives. There are harvesting saltpeter, cleaning up vomit, giving enemas to royalty, all kinds of things. There is lots to be grossed out about here, but also so much to learn. What we saw. Now, this one is a hard one, okay? Um, I will not cover up the fact to you that there are some very hard scenes in this book. However, if you have Shout in your library, or I mean, if you have Speak by Laura House Anderson or her book Shout in your library, then this I would say is about on par with that. So this is about Kate and Ben. They've been best friends from elementary school, and now she wants more than that. So they begin dating. However, after a really big party one night, Ben has brought Kate home because she passed out. And then there are whispers going on around about a girl at the party may have been raped. And then the police come and actually arrest some of the boys from the school. And they're going to go on trial for this rape. There are rumors that there is a video somewhere hidden on the internet that shows exactly what happened. Um, and there is just so much going on in this book, but Hartzler has written it in a way that it exposes this culture that we have of, oh, boys will be boys. Oh, look at the way she was dressed. She deserved it. It teaches about consent and what consent looks like. Just so much. It was hard to read, but it was necessary for me to read. So think about it. Maybe you want to check it out from the public library and listen to it or read it before you decide whether or not you can handle having it in your library. What's Eating Jackie O is about 15-year-old Jackie who lives in New York City and works at her grandparents' deli. She decides to skip school and her history final in order to audition for a cooking show. and she gets caught, but she makes it on the show. Her parents decide to allow her to go ahead and continue on with the show because they think that it'll give her something good for her college application essays. This is a good look at a child of immigrants, in this case, Koreans, who is trying to be herself and also win the approval of her family. She learns about herself and her self-confidence. And interestingly enough, though, there are the relationships. This is not a romance book. Instead, this is front and center about Jackie and what's going on in her life. Two more to go, folks. Wild Wave is a good, solid middle school book about Nick, who has gone to the local nature preserve because he needs to finish a final assignment for school. He's chosen the refuge because there is a girl that works at the refuge from his class who gives tours. And however, while they're there, because this was recently covered in their science classes, they see and realize that a tsunami is coming. And so they warn everybody they can and they run for the hills to see if they can get up above the waves. They they minimally make it and find themselves clinging to the tops of the trees that are in the forest there and survive. But even though they survived the tsunami, will they survive to find their way out of the forest or not? Because the tsunami has so much power to it that even as they go, they find a boat that has been flipped into the top of the trees. So much going on here, so interesting. I kind of wish that the cover didn't look so juvenile so that my older kids, my eighth and ninth graders, would also pick this one up to read. Okay, last and definitely not least is Marissa Meyer's newest book, With a Little Luck. This is about Jude, who is shy with very little self-confidence. He's had a crush on a girl named Maya since middle school, but is afraid to ask her out. And so then he finds what he considers to be a lucky charm that gives him success and confidence and decides to take Maya on a date. Everything's going very well on the date until he loses that lucky charm. However, maybe it was not the charm that gave him that success with Maya. Maybe it was just Jude who was willing to be himself and open up to someone else. It is super sweet and it is a perfect way to end this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I don't know how much of it you got to see. I would love to hear from you sometime to have more reviewers for Kiss the Book. But even if you can't, I'm so glad that we can help you choose new books for your libraries. Have a great rest of the day, you guys. I'll see you the next time we get together.